Hello dear students. So today we are going to discuss or study about the thermal power plant. Last lecture we have studied the hydroelectric power plant. So in case of thermal power plant, we are using the coal for generation or for generating the electricity. So in this case, the chemical energy of the coal will be converted into heat energy by using the boilers. Again, the heat energy of the steam or water will be converted into mechanical energy by using the steam turbines, and the mechanical energy will be again converted into electricity by using the generators or gensets. So that is the basic working of the thermal power plant. Again, there are two circuits. One is nothing but the coal boiler, steam turbine, generator, condenser and this hot well. This forms first circuit, and second is nothing but again the cooling water tank, condenser and cooling tower. This form the second circuit. So that is regarding the thermal power plant or its generation. In detail we will see it later on. So before that, come to the site selection for the thermal power plant. So while selecting the site for thermal power plant, the various factors those should be considered are availability of coal, availability of water, ash disposal, space requirement, transportation and electric power transmission. So these are the different points those should be considered while selecting the site for thermal power plant. So discuss one by one. So first of all, availability of coal. So in this case, the most required thing is nothing but the coal, isn't it? Resource is nothing but coal, and that coal we can get from the coal mines. That's why while selecting the site for thermal power plant, it should be nearer to the coal mine, so that the transportation cost of the coal will be minimum or get reduced. That is regarding number one. Number two, availability of water. So again, in case of thermal power plant, the water requirement is also more, because it will be required for boiler, for cooling tower as well as for the staff which will be working inside the thermal power plant. That's why sufficient water should be there at the selected site. Okay. Next one, ash disposal. After burning the coal inside the boiler, we are getting the ash as its output, isn't it? And that ash disposal is one of the important point, because it may produce either the air pollution or water pollution. In previous days, that ash was disposed to either rivers, lake or sea. But nowadays, that ash is used for different industrial processes. That is one of the benefit. Okay. Next one, space requirement. Again regarding the space required for the thermal power plant is about 3 to 5 acres per megawatt of the generation. So accordingly we have to choose the site. That much space must be available for our plant according to its capacity in megawatt. Next one, transportation. Again, in case of transportation, as I told you, the coal transportation is the most important, isn't it? The coal transportation charges should be minimum, isn't it? So minimize it. One thing that I told you, that it should be, or coal mine should be nearer to the site, or site should be nearer to the coal mine. And second thing, in case of transportation, we are using the trains or railways, so that the transportation cost will get reduced. And the final one, electric power transmission. So after generation of electricity, we are transporting or transmitting the electricity or electric power to the different points, that means consumer points, isn't it? So for that we need the different power lines, and for power lines the costing is also high. So to reduce it, the distance between the power plant and the consumer point should be minimum or moderate. So these are the different points those should be considered while selecting the site for thermal power plant. Now regarding the working of the thermal power plant, how it works. Okay. So previously, as I told you, there are basic two circuits. This is first one and the second one. So these are the two different circuits. So initially the coal is supplied to the boiler, isn't it? Again, with help of the coal, the heat is generated, or the chemical energy of the coal will be converted into heat energy, and using that heat energy, the water inside the boiler is heated and converted into steam, and that generated steam is again used to rotate the steam turbines, isn't it? Again, that uses or that is used to convert it into mechanical energy. That means the rotor of the steam turbine is going to rotate because of impinging of the steam. Again, that mechanical energy generated inside the steam turbine will be converted into electricity by using the generators. Okay. So after that, the steam turbine, the steam coming out from the steam turbine is supplied to the condenser, where the heat from the steam will be absorbed and it will be taken by the cooling water coming from the cooling water tank, isn't it? And because of which the steam coming out from the steam turbine will get condensed, and that condensed steam, that means water, will be again supplied to the hot well, and again that water will be given to the boiler by using the feed pump. So that cycle will be again repeated. So that is one cycle. Sometimes there are some losses, because of which the water quantity, total water quantity may get reduced. For that, makeup water is also produced, also available, so that we can match the required quantity, isn't it? So that is regarding circuit 1. Now the circuit 1, which is used for the cooling tower. So what is cooling tower? So in case of cooling tower, there is a cooling water tank from which the water is supplied to the condenser. That means it is nothing but a cold water which is supplied to the condenser, and inside the condenser, again the condenser is nothing but heat exchanger. That condenser, what it does, the cold water coming from the cooling water tank absorbs the heat from the steam which is coming from the steam turbine, and it gets heated, its temperature increases, isn't it? Obviously the steam will get condensed which is coming out from the steam turbine, and again it goes to the hot well, and the cold water coming from the cooling water tank will get heated, and that hot water is again supplied to the cooling tower, isn't it? Inside the cooling tower, again the hot water is sprayed with help of the sprays, and because of which again the hot water will be cooled. That means in this case, while spraying the water, what it does, it absorbs the coldness of the cold water coming from the low level, downside, isn't it? And it gets heated. That means warm air is coming outside from the top side. So that means inside the cooling tower, whatever the hot water coming from the condenser is cooled, and that is again collected into the cooling water tank, and again it is supplied to the condenser, and again that the cycle is repeated. So these are the two cycles, or two different circuits. Those are in case of steam power plant or thermal power plant, one and same. Okay, so that is regarding the working of the steam power plant or thermal power plant. Now coming to the advantages of thermal power plant. So what are the different advantages of the thermal power plant? So in case of thermal power plant, regarding the requirement of the electricity, we can change the load accordingly or easily. That is one of the advantage of the thermal power plant. Second, the fuel used, which is nothing but coal, which is cheaper than that of the diesel or the nuclear. In case of nuclear power plant, whatever the material is used is highly cost or is having more cost. As compared to that, the coal required or the cost of the coal is very low. That's why the cost of coal is very low. And next one, the steam generated inside the boiler may be used for different industrial processes. So these are some of the advantages of the thermal power plant. Regarding the disadvantages, in thermal power plant, the operating as well as maintenance cost is high. Next one, the erection time required for the thermal power plant is more compared to our other power plants. Large quantity of water is also required, that we have seen. The quantity of water required in case of thermal power plant is also more, and coal handling is also difficult in case of thermal power plant. Also the ash handling, as I told you, the ash may produce either the air pollution or water pollution. That's why its handling is somewhat difficult. That is one of the disadvantages of the thermal power plant. And finally, so in case of thermal power plant, inside the plant, the temperature is somewhat higher, and also it contains some ash. That's why the environmental condition for the workers is somewhat difficult to work. And finally, while removing the ash, it is having some temperature or in a hot condition. That's why the hot ash removal is also difficult for the laborers. So these are the some of the disadvantages of the thermal power plant. So that is regarding thermal power plant. If you have any difficulty regarding it, you can ask me using the chat option. Thank you.